The goal of this panel is for you to engage with female technology leaders, and we have them in abundance, who make significant contributions to STEM in our community and beyond. We'll have the opportunity to learn from these leaders about how they view future opportunities in the tech field, from artificial intelligence and bias to building out their passion projects. So welcome. Our panelists are Gina Poole from NewCo, Phaedra Boinodiris from IBM, Priya Raju from IBM, and Snigdha Kotta from SAS. Our ambassador of this session is V Dang. V will be monitoring the chat for us. So let's get started. I'm going to ask each of our panelists to introduce themselves, and Gina Poole, I'll start with you.
Great, thanks, Leigh, and I'm super excited to be here. I am actually a graduate of NC State, Business Management, Economics, and Computer Science. So love the wolf pack. You might go, what the heck is NewCo? I just recently took a new job with a company that's backed by one of the biggest venture capital firms where we're bringing together initially 4 software firms, and I'm literally in the process of renaming the company, launching the company, hence it's called NewCo, because I'm not ready to launch the name yet. But prior to that, I worked several years at Amazon as the CMO of Amazon Game Tech, and prior to that at IBM in a variety of marketing roles, including CMO for our software development tools organization. So about 20 years of very broad marketing experience. But first, before I went into marketing, I started as a technologist, started my career as a software tester and a developer and a development manager. So I've been in technology for quite some time.
That is awesome. And we're going to get a chance to talk more about that journey. Thank you. Phaedra, I'll turn to you next.
Yes, hi everybody, thrilled to be here. My name is Phaedra Boinodiris. I have been at IBM now for 12 years. I'm currently excited to say that I'm also a student again. I'm pursuing a PhD in AI and ethics, thanks to the European Union, which has been truly fun. Prior to that, I'd been a serial entrepreneur for about 15 years in the gaming space. I started a company called womengamers.com with my sister, and we started the first scholarship program for women to pursue degrees in game design and development in the US. So happy to be here.
Terrific, thank you. Priya?
Hi, I'm Ramapriya, and I'm currently with IBM. I've been with them for 6 years, and 22 years in between all my maternity breaks and the fun times I've had as a homemaker, but full-time technologist. I currently manage a financial services account engineering and innovation section of theirs. So we're constantly looking at new technologies, emerging trends, AI, analytics, big data, whatever we can bring as a transformation and change agent to our client. That's my responsibility. So I get to meet a lot of interesting people, and I absolutely love to learn what each and every one of them has to offer today. It's more probably a learning for me than for anybody else, and I totally enjoy it every day. So I'm happy to be here and to be interacting with everybody.
Well, glad to have you too. Snigdha?
Hi everyone, my name is Snigdha Kotta. I am currently a product manager at SAS. I've been here for about 10 years, and my background is in electrical and computer engineering, Go Pack, and I'm also a current MBA student in the professional evening program. And I'm set to graduate in May, so I'm very excited. The light at the end of the tunnel is like getting brighter and brighter with each day. I'm very excited to be here. I think this is such a wonderful opportunity. I attended this 3 years ago and have attended since then, and it's been growing so much, and I'm here to learn as well, personally.
Terrific, thank you both, and thank you all. So my first question, and I'll let anyone start that wants to, describe the unique challenges that you face as a woman in tech, and what strategies have you used to address these challenges? Who'd like to start?
I can go.
Okay.
Okay, so where do I start? So I think challenges that we have faced, probably just not as women in tech, but as a technologist who constantly has to be with the client 24/7, or for your own organization. The first one is building a cohesive alliance with not just your own organization, but your client. If you want to make a huge investment in terms of technology, the first is mindset and people acceptance. And I find that the biggest challenge that I face every day is not resistance or negative opinion, but more inertia. So it's good if you have people who support you, or if you know who is against it, so you can go after what their challenges are and what their concerns are and deal with it. But the biggest challenge every time I believe I face is inertia, where you basically don't have a reaction to a change. And that's the mood that we have to go after. And I feel takes longer than anything else.
Can you say a little bit more about that?
So every time we, sure. So we in our organization constantly bring either are implementing our own tools with our clients, or we go after tools that make most sense in the client's ecosystem. So what happens is now you're then having to talk to a large audience or a group of people who are used to their ways. Basically, they are either very comfortable, or are the new things that are coming in challenges them in their comfort zone. So, but if they accept, it means for some of them, it's a huge learning curve and they're not ready for it. If they openly oppose it, that means they're not viewed positively by their peers and their sponsors. So the easier way out, we feel sometimes, is they just have no reaction. So how do you then deal with no reaction? That's the inertia that I talk about. So if you don't attend the meetings, if you don't take the training programs, you always keep postponing the training programs, you don't onboard into those programs on time, you don't adapt to that new development lifecycle or the product lifecycle. But it's always the next project, I'll do it. The next project, I'll do it. And you're the lagger. But for the lagger, you have hundreds of reasons that you give, very valid sometimes, but there are always opportunities for you to fix them and move on. But you don't, because it's personally their fear that comes in as inertia, I feel, more than anything else. And that's where I think the biggest challenge is.
Yeah, in a rapidly changing environment, it's hard to get people to change with you at that pace.
Yeah.
So what would others say? What are some challenges that you're facing as women in tech, and how do you deal with those?
Well, this is Gina, so I'll jump in. And having been woman in tech for about 30 years now, and what's interesting is often, you know, I've been the only woman in the room. At Amazon, the gaming organization had 18 executives, and I was the only female. At NewCo, you know, of these senior executives right now, I'm the only female. So this, you know, often happens. And one of the things that I've experienced, you know, throughout my career is often the qualities that are applauded in men are viewed negatively in women. So for example, I'm told I'm too aggressive, or I'm too loud, or I'm too, you know, this or too that, which is sort of fascinating. But you know, one of the things that I've used to, you know, kind of alleviate those challenges is really getting to know my peers, understanding, you know, their roles, what their goals are, listening. But that still doesn't stop me from speaking up. You know, I can't not do that. And I think that's really important. And I mentor a lot of women. And one of the tips I make, if you're going to go into a meeting room, you know, that's you and you're the only female there, you know, if possible, try to sit at the head of the table. That way you can see everyone, everyone can see you. So when you speak, you know, you can be heard, because, you know, it's often, you know, our male counterparts want to talk over us.
I love that. Be bold. That's a bold move. So
kind of going along with what you just said, Gina, I think that's a very valid point. I've been in many meetings where I'm the only female in a group of 25 male engineers, and they're also older than me and they have more experience. And so coming into this, one of the challenges I personally face is the lack of confidence, or building confidence, knowing that what I want to say and what my opinion is, I need to feel valued, in other words. And for me, the best way to go about and overcome that challenge has been to find key advocates within different groups, male or female, and make sure that I kind of talk to them beforehand. And if they're in these meetings, or if they're on the email thread, they can kind of advocate for me if needed. And so I feel more supported because I have this trusted board of advisors, if you want to call it that.
Thank you. Phaedra?
I've had different challenges at different points in my career. I remember when I was the CEO of WomenGamers.com, I would go to big gaming conferences out on the West Coast. And as often there would be a line for the ladies' room, and most of the women in the line would be wearing chainmail bikinis because they were booth babes, right? So there were challenges, certainly, as being one of the few women working in the gaming industry at the time. But nowadays I would say that most recently it's been things like just pushing down the imposter syndrome feelings, right? So when you get opportunities to join initiatives and you're sitting in a room with just incredible people, or people that you know of high eminence, and you're saying to yourself, oh my God, what the heck am I doing here with Senator Chuck Schumer's AI team? I mean, I'm not an expert in X, Y, and Z. You need to just take an opportunity to listen and learn, because obviously you have some value in some way, and there's a reason why you're there. And it's also important to just to show up, right? To actually grab those opportunities, because as we heard in the last keynote that Gina gave, you really can't be what you can't see. So going up there and making sure that you are the face, that you are there at the table is quintessentially important.
I love that. Can't be what you can't see, and getting out there boldly.
Can I add to what Phaedra said? Because
Please, yeah.
The imposter syndrome, when I, Amazon recruited me to lead the game tech marketing, unlike Phaedra, I'm not a big gamer. And so I was like, oh my God, total imposter. But I am a good B2B marketer, and that's exactly what they needed. So, when you get, and often in my career, these opportunities come on and you're like, crap, I don't think I can do that. Go and do it. You can do that. Don't miss out.
That's fantastic advice. So our theme is radical collaboration. What does it look like when you are being radical? And you've already given some examples, but what does it look like when you're being radical? What are the skills and values that you see in your daily role that reflect radical collaboration for women in tech?
The way that I translate that is I'm crossing over major silos, meaning being pulled into work streams and task forces that I have never, ever done before. Like Gina said, suddenly she's this vice president of the gaming group at Amazon, right? I'm right now, one of my big projects, and again, this is my pet project, has nothing to do with my day job, is I'm working towards creating a Center for Ethical AI here within the state. And to do that, you've got to know about nonprofits and foundations and working with legislators and ... which I know nothing about. But finding people who have decided to champion me, who have incredible skill sets and background and history in that regard, and just learning from them, being in on those meetings and just saying, okay, I'm going to be a sponge and just learn as much as I possibly can. That is certainly pushing me and pushing my boundaries in terms of what I've done in the past.
Thank you. Who would like to share?
I'll share right along those same lines of jumping silos. As a product manager, I've been in this role for about 9 or 10 months. And before this, I was very much an IT engineer with, those blinders on. I'm staring at my keyboard, I'm staring at my monitor, and that's it. So for me, I've had to face this big challenge of realizing that there's more than what I saw in my previous little bubble of being within a kind of a siloed off division within IT. And now I'm having to work with people across the company, and everything from working with legal to marketing to sales and field enablement has been, in my view, kind of the biggest thing that's been a challenge for me in terms of taking on this new role and new responsibility. I have to talk to people that have no idea that my job exists, that people don't really care about my job. And everything that I'm working on, I'm kind of leading an API first initiative across my company, and people have just become so used to doing things in their way. And so bringing that kind of shift in culture has been one of the biggest challenges I've had to face.
Yeah, Priya talked a little bit about that as well, trying to move something, that changing way.
I'm going to answer the question in just a little bit differently and kind of share a best practice I learned at Amazon that helps drive some of their radical collaboration. And some of you may be familiar with this, but one of Amazon's big leadership principles is customer obsession, and it's kind of working backwards from what the customer needs. So anytime there's a new idea, new project, new business, new anything, everybody, you start by writing the press release. What would that press release be? And you write it from a customer standpoint. And then, you go into a room, you don't create PowerPoints. PowerPoints are banned at Amazon. You go into the room, and if the people are on the phone, you email the document to them right before the meeting, go into the room with printouts, and then everyone spends the first 20 minutes reading that document. And you invite all of the diverse stakeholders. You've got legal, you've got HR, you've got finance, you have development, you have marketing, you have product management. So all of the key people are in the room, and then you go around and everyone gets a chance to share their thoughts on the document, ask additional questions. The key leader who may make the final decision goes last, because if they go first, guess what? Everybody agrees with them. And so, and I found that to be incredibly valuable because it gives everyone from all the diverse groups a chance to share their thoughts, ask questions. And then when you come to decision in Amazon, it's called disagree and commit. Even if maybe you disagreed with that to begin with, you all walk out of that room marching in the same direction. So it's kind of a cool way to bring in all those insights, give everybody a seat at the table, everyone a voice. And the nice thing about not doing PowerPoints is everybody has some really good, deep information all at the same time versus having to sit through a PowerPoint and finally getting there at the end.
I love it. I love that process. Have the rest of you used other processes that have been useful for you in terms of practicing this and getting people to the same point, the disagree and commit?
Similar, but not quite, in terms of, I really love that idea of no PowerPoints and also disagree and commit. That's amazing. I'm definitely going to be stealing that. So thank you, Gina. At my company, I've been kind of tasked with changing the view of API design. And so I've been tasked with kind of thinking about it with more of a design thinking mindset. So we've started hosting a lot of workshops and inviting key stakeholders from different divisions to make sure everyone's perspective is heard. And not only heard, we also need to follow up and execute on it. So that's where my role comes in. And I've both helped facilitate the workshops, hosted them, been a participant, and now my role is to kind of be the person who makes sure that people are doing what they said they would do in that workshop. And in terms of collaboration, that's been like really life-changing, because some of these people don't talk to each other, even if they're on the same team, even if they're the same company, and we're all working towards the same goal. Communication is just, it's an issue, I think, across different companies as well, and different industries too.
Yeah, great tips. I know design thinking, Phaedra, you mentioned that in the conversation yesterday. Yeah, I think you really like to use that. Can you say more?
Very much so, very much so. I found design thinking is really foundational.
Phaedra, you cut out for just a minute.
Test, is this better?
Yeah, try it. We
Okay.
heard, I think design thinking is.
Oh, sorry. Foundational in terms of offering a structure to really be able to empathize with others. So making sure that you take the time to understand your audience, to understand the end user, to understand, the systems around them, so that you can curate or create an experience that's really meaningful for them is really important.
Priya, anything to add?
For me, I think what probably has personally worked is every time there is a change, there is some level of, I would say, acceptance, rejection, moving on, and sometimes just disregard for new things that come along the way. Because the general perception is, hey, it's the next shiny object. It'll go away after a while and there'll be something else in technology. So let's just get on with it. So I feel being radical to me is making it very personal to people. So when in a engineering kind of an environment that where I work in, and my teams can scale to about 200 people at time, and then I have to federate them out into the delivery organization, and then we pull back, we start over again with a different initiative. So when we do things like that, these are not people that we are gonna, I wouldn't say they are team members for really, really long periods of time, right? We come in, the engagement or the relationship is like 2 years, 3 years maybe, and then they all go their own ways, either in the same account, different projects, different programs. So how do you then make this group of people who don't have a past history with you relate to you in terms of this, right? So I feel that being radical is make it extremely personal for them. So every time, and I think it works for me, is the first introductory meeting that I go to, I always say, if being part of this organization doesn't improve your resume in 12 months, then you're free to go. And if you don't believe that you can make a LinkedIn update after 6 months and then after a 12-month window, then I'm not adding any value to you. So I make it extremely personal to people. And I always believe that that's the way we've had people who've stayed with us in some long-term engagements over 8-9 years. With one client, one account, knowledge there, they've grown within the account, they've cross-skilled themselves, and the clients then feel some kind of a relationship with these guys, and there is that personal investment of emotions, right, on both sides. So to bring that, it has to be personal. So the fear in the leadership always is, hey, if you make it very personal and their resume improves, won't they leave the organization? But it works exactly the opposite way most of the times. If they feel that you're working towards improving every individual's commitment, then they are that much more vested with us, right? It's the same way for me, and why wouldn't I think it should be any different for anybody else?
Yeah, and you're pointing to something really important. Gina, I saw you raise your hand. You want to add to that? Because you guys are beginning to talk about how do we really support each other? And those are some of the questions coming in the chat. So yeah, Gina, please go.
No, I loved what you said about, can I help, with, my being part of the project to help, improve my LinkedIn profile, your LinkedIn I mean, I just thought that was super cool. So I'm going to use that.
I agree. I think that's amazing that you'd think if people get their resumes updated or their LinkedIn updated, they'd be more inclined to find other better opportunities. But realistically, knowing that you're valued and knowing that your career growth is important to your company really helps you stick around.
Wonderful. And you're getting to my next question, which, a theme of this conference as well is allyship. So what does being an ally mean in your work world? And what does it look like when someone's being an ally for you, as you, and some of you have touched on this, as you move through the organization? Because I've heard there's a lot of, oh my God, I'm being thrown something I don't know how to do. How do I figure this out? Everyone has said some aspect of that. So what does being an ally look like in your work world, and how does that someone being an ally for you and supporting you look like?
I'd say for me, being an ally is being able to see someone that looks like myself. And whether that's physical features or it's mental mindset or it's a positive attitude or your personality wise, or just knowing that there's another female leader or there's someone who I can directly reach out to for mentorship. And in turn, I expect the same. So as an ally for someone else, that's what I would do for them. And that's what I expect out of them if they're an ally for me. And for me, I'm an oversharer. I tend to share everything that's going on in my life, whether people like it or not, and then people can pick and choose whether they want to be involved or not. So I'm on the steering committee of an organization called the Women's Initiatives Network internally at SAS. And it's been a great opportunity for me to, one, not only build my network, but find my core group of people that look like me, that think like me, that when I'm having these moments of, I don't know what the heck I'm doing, and how did I get this job, and why are people still paying me because I don't know what I'm doing, it feels like these are the people that I can reach out to and connect with. And it's not just within the company and professional connections, it's a good support system outside. It's been finding classmates in my MBA program, talking to other people that I just resonate with, and finding where we can connect. Hopefully that makes sense.
Good.
Good. No, I love that because I'm a fellow oversharer. I tend to be very transparent with my teams, and yeah. So I think the oversharing, again, you have to be careful what you're sharing, but it helps build trust, and I think that's really important. But as far as being, an ally, I think it's as important to be an ally for people like you, so in my case, other women, but also, all types of people. I'm a huge fan of every type of diversity, all the way to, diversity of thought and personality. And if you're an ally, you're standing up for these people and you're listening and learning because, I've learned so much from people from different backgrounds and all of that, and then it helps me stand up for them. And the same as finding allies, some of my best allies have not been women, again, because I'm surrounded by men often, but, it's super, super valuable. And, just being yourself and, setting up time. For example, when I went to Amazon, I was like, okay, here's 17 men I've got to get to know that are all like super gamers. What am I going to do? And so I took the time, let's have a coffee, let's have lunch, let's have a glass of wine, let's get to know each other. And, gosh, I would like your help. People love, typically people don't say no when you ask for their help, which, and then you'll find the ones that will be natural allies and some will blow you off, but that's okay.
Phaedra, Priya, what have you done?
I have an ally who is male that I've had for many years, and I have learned so much from this person. His name is Ross Smith. I'm just going to give him a shout out right now. Ross Smith at Microsoft. He is amazing. He and I had really similar career paths at both our respective companies. And so we got to know each other meeting up at conferences, really. But what has happened is he was further along in his career than I. And when he would get invited to things, he would say, hey, I'm bringing you with me. When he would hear about opportunities, he would suggest my name. When he knew that I needed help in something or needed connection, open up his Rolodex. And he didn't do this once. He didn't do this twice. He's done this consistently for years.
Phaedra, you froze up for just a moment.
Work, I'm sorry.
That's okay. What we heard was he's done this consistently for years.
Yes, for years. Maybe I'll stop my video. And I owe him so much. When he's got trouble, he picks up the phone and he calls me and I say, I'm having the same issues with my career right now. And it's wonderful to have someone like that who's willing to just open up and really, really help. And I try to do the very same thing for others. I try to do it consistently because I know how important it has been to me in my life.
It's so great to hear. And it's great to hear that allies are not only women, but they're also that men are out there supporting you because they're so prevalent in tech. Priya, did you want to add anything?
Just wanted to say everybody said exactly what was on my mind. So being an ally is just not you finding allies to support you in your thoughts, ideas, and costs, but also being one for others. I think that kind of becomes the emulation that everybody wants to see of you and trust you. You being an ally for people makes you that person that people can not only trust on a daily basis, but really have that relationship. Because at the end of the day, any delivery on an everyday basis really kicks off and works to its best based on relationships. How much ever you might have as a technology knowledge, business, sales, marketing knowledge, at the end of the day, it all comes down to what your relationship with people is and can they get it done at the right time and at the right pace. So, and that's, I feel, based out of trust, and that trust comes from being that ally in times of not just need, but as Phaedra was saying, you might not even be aware of it if somebody is willing to pull you along their journey and make it fruitful for you, then that's that deep set appreciation for you. So it's again something not driven by selfish motives, but more like it's an ecosystem and everybody grows in this matrix system and we nurture each other's growth, right? So it sounds very, I would say, probably cliche in some ways, but isn't that the truth though? We're all in different teams, organizations, people come and go. So the only thing that sustains is beyond all of those relationships. So being an ally is that nurturing that relationship. I feel that, at least from my perspective.
I'd like to
Yeah, go ahead.
kind of share one thing, and it's on this topic, but a little off. But as I was interviewing for this most recent role, one of the questions that I got was from one of the people say, tell me the top 3 things you're most proud of in your career. And I said, you know, the number one thing is when I'm walking through an airport and somebody yells out, Gina, Gina. And I'm always really bad with names, but I remember faces. And I'm like, oh, hey. And like, hey, I worked for you 10 years ago and your advice changed my life.
Wow.
That to me is a single, you know, so as a leader, that's what I look, you know, I hope it's the impact that I have on people on my teams. And, you know, it's just like, oh my God, this is so wonderful. It just makes my day.
That's
So.
really powerful, really powerful. As I'm listening, I'm struck by the fact that all of you are you're in an industry, in the tech industry, that changes so rapidly. And I remember when I was getting my doctorate and I thought, oh, I'm done with education. Yay. Now I know I'm on a lifelong learning path, and that's okay. But you're in industries, you're working with companies where the external environment and the technology changes so fast. And yet you talk about trust and relationships. What do you do? What did you do to gain credibility? And what do you do to keep it in this rapidly changing environment as women in tech?
Yeah, you're hit on a huge challenge, you know, whether you stay in your same role or you change companies, roles, teams. I mean, it is this lifelong learning. You've got to constantly be, you know, be learning. There's a lot of opportunities, you know, within your company, you know, lunch and learns, or, you know, I try to go to a lot of our sessions, you know, where they're doing training for the sales team, you know, it's like, oh, I need to know that too. Again, I don't have to be the super duper expert, but if you're going to really understand your customer and deliver value for them, you've got to know what their problems are and how whatever it is you're providing for them adds value. But it is like a full-time job that usually happens often at night, on weekends, and also just pulling in others, you know, other experts, because, you know, I always tell my teams, man, I'm not the smartest person in the room by any means. And so, you know, the key is to know who you need to pull in to help, you know, bolster and build your skills.
Where do you go to get that information?
Oh, well, the internet is amazing. Yeah, obviously, you know, the internet, you know, some of the experts, you know, the others that I'm working with, you know, peers or, you know, folks on the development team. We do a lot of work with industry analysts. So if you want a real quick knowledge dump, man, a half an hour with an expert industry analyst is always good. Reports. Yeah, it's just endless. You know, there's just so much going on.
Great, thank you. What do
What
others
works? So this might seem strange to people, but when we think about how do you constantly learn in an evolving environment, we always think about being mentored and coached by somebody with experience. So this year I tried to do something different. I don't know. I think it's going to work out well, but my peers think I'm a little weird for doing that. I asked somebody who is not my reportee, but 2 layers down, a reportee's reportee, to be my coach and mentor. So this person has 5 years of technology experience, but this person essentially has grown up with internet, and this person has essentially grown up with technology. So their entire mindset is very different to mine. They started having technology in school, maybe in elementary school. And so the whole way they see things are so very different to how I might see it. And I feel they have a lot to offer me in terms of what the world is today. How do you view app industry versus service industry versus product industry, and what their experiences are. The networking that he has is far superior to mine any day. And the skills they possess in terms of adapting to new technology is super fast compared to where I am. So I believe they have a lot to offer me more than anybody else. So I believe he's going to be a very good mentor for me for the next 6 months when I try to go down the path of trying to understand how this person, basically his name is Gokul, and how Gokul's going to help me become a better technologist. So we'll see. I think it's fun, but we'll see how this goes.
We got some notes in the chat about reverse mentoring is amazing and humility opens doors. And I think you set a great example. Snigdha or Phaedra, what helps you establish and keep credibility in this crazy environment?
I love what you said, Priya. That's amazing. I just wanted to say that doing that whole experience, I think, is going to give you a really good perspective on a different mindset that you may not necessarily have. And you're right. People typically think of a mentoring relationship as someone who's in a higher position than you, or, you know, is more leadership roles or whatever that may be. But I love your idea.
Thank you.
And in terms of how do I keep up with technology changes, I would say that I personally try to use a lot of the resources available on the wonderful world of Google. And then beyond that, the way that I personalize some of my situations, I'm not someone who can stare at a screen and get all this and absorb all this content. It's just not me. So I need a lot of hands-on. In addition to that, I want to talk to other people. And by talking to other people, I mean, I attend meetup groups, I go to tech talks in the RTP area, and I keep up with podcasts. And that's my way of listening and hearing and learning in different modes, not just reading pixels on a screen.
Similarly, so I too am ingesting a lot of great content, and I've tried to join book clubs when I can so I can read again. But additionally, I really try to regularly blog and teach and do public speaking. And in this way, I'm also associating the kinds of things that I care about directly to my personal brand as I'm building it. So that when people think about things that they care about, you know, and they're wondering, gee, who in this space might know something about this? I'm hoping they will remember my name so that I could be invited to join initiatives that that would then further the pursuits that I'm interested in.
Great, you guys have shared some really great tools, and I know the questions are piling up in the chat. V, would you like to pose some questions to the panelists from our chat?
Yes, sure. Thank you for that, Leigh. We have so far a couple of questions from our audience right here. And for all of the panelists, we have talked a little bit about communication in radical collaboration. So what would be your advice for people who are in the non-technical roles and struggling to communicate and collaborate with people in more technical positions? Everyone get that?
How do we talk to people in tech?
Yeah, in a radical collaborations.
I can say that I was on the other side. So I was very much in a technical role, being an engineer, and I would have all these product managers, project managers coming to me and telling me, you got to do it this way, this way, this way. I'm like, no, but technology wise, it doesn't work like that. And now being on the opposite side and talking to the folks in tech, it's interesting how you have to phrase things a little differently. But I think the way you can deliver your message is finding the business value, because even if they're technical, even if they're, you know, an engineer or they're a developer or they're, you know, a data scientist, at the end of the day, you got to see the business value of what you're working on. And when you find that, I've even had some of my colleagues tell me, why didn't you just tell me that's why we were building this? Here I was not working on this because I didn't think it was important. It was just a small little feature that does this drop-down menu, blah, blah, blah. But then came to find out that our customers are having direct issues with that. And they spend time and resources and energy struggling with that feature. And so to you as a developer, it might seem like it's something very small, but it provides a lot of customer value. So I would say find the business value, and that way you can communicate to someone who's more technical and you're maybe not as experienced in that domain.
Oh, I love that answer. And, you know, because often, I mean, even in the dark ages, when I was a developer, a lot of developers I know, you know, they're working hard, but they don't know why. And so understanding what's the value to the business, but, you know, just kind of building on that, also, you know, uniting everyone around the value to the customer. You know, oh, we're doing this because it's going to bring this benefit to the customer. You know, and a lot of people often get excited about that as well. And, you know, that can help them kind of think differently about what they're doing.
I hear shared vision in both of your answers. Create some kind of shared vision.
I think also those who are non-technical really should not discount themselves. Can you hear me okay?
Mhm.
Yeah, really should not discount themselves, because really the premise, the purpose behind technology is around specifically human behaviors, right? How do you motivate changes in human behaviors? How do you curate an experience that is better for humans, or, you know, better for processes or systems around humans, right? Take, for example, the realm of artificial intelligence, right? So I'm pursuing this PhD in AI and ethics. The non-technical scope associated with AI and ethics is vast, right? Being able to understand philosophy, definitions of fairness, legislation, design, education, right? All of these things are imperative in the realm of artificial intelligence, in particular with respect to ethics. And it goes far beyond into other aspects of technology too. So it's really important that we do frame technology knowing about human behavioral design, and really inviting our peers who may not be technologists to have these kinds of difficult.
Phaedra, I think you cut out there. And Leigh, if you're speaking, I think you're muted.
Thank you, Snigdha. Phaedra, you did cut out.
So let's all unite and do a GoFundMe to get Phaedra a better internet connection.
All my kids are probably playing Fortnite, I'm sure of it.
Yeah, you gotta tell them no. But Phaedra, the last thing we heard was the technologists who are not.
Oh, sorry. So for those people who are not technologists, to really not discount themselves, because it's imperative that they're part of the broader conversation around human behavioral design. Like I mentioned with AI and ethics, right? Understanding design, legislation, philosophy, fairness, education. There's so many other aspects that we as technologists must be incorporating, must be thinking about. So embracing our peers who are not technologists is really important.
We need a big virtual hug between all of us, the techies and the non-techies.
There you go.
V, what about other questions?
Yes, I do have another question from the audience. Can the panelists share their personal success or failures when it comes to radical collaboration? Can you guys hear that question?
Yes, and I could share kind of what I've talked about. One of the successes that I've had recently over the past 4 months is I'm leading this whole API first initiative. And for those who are not familiar with this, it's essentially changing the mindset of the folks who typically work on a piece of software into thinking with a design first or a customer first mindset. So kind of like what you said, Gina, making sure that you are obsessed with that customer experience and you feel like their pain is your pain, you empathize, and there's a lot of, you know, feelings involved in this, whereas before it was very much does it follow technical standards? Is the proposed workflow okay? Do we have the resources to double check and make sure we can publish it? Just very technical stuff. And now here we are thinking about when our user, our end user or developer does this action, they feel this way. And it's been a huge mindset change, but I think it's been really successful because we have key stakeholders and representation from different parts of the company. And I think that's what was missing. And knowing that I'm in this role and I'm able to help lead some of this collaboration, I would say is probably one of my biggest successes that I've had in the 10 years that I've been at SAS.
Great. Anybody else want to share?
Well, I can say that for me, I measure success by this radical thought process that because I'm part of a transformation engineering organization, if I become dispensable to that team, I mean, then I've done my job. So basically, if people can go on about their business and we've brought the necessary change, they don't need me anymore, then I'm out of there, moving on to the next piece of work. So and we've done that a few times, and I believe, hence, I must be successful, right? So, and my team must have done really well for that to have worked out. So, sometimes that also becomes the biggest challenge, because then you put a group of people in a position where, say, for example, we bring in automation and artificial intelligence into a volume of work that's driven mainly by human workforce. The immediate fear is, am I out of this job? So you're now dealing with perceptions. You're now dealing with innate fears of an individual. It's got nothing to do with technology. So the challenges are that you're always going to be facing those. But and I explained to my team that if we are dispensable to this team, if we make them self-sufficient and enable them to do what they can do that they could not do maybe 8 weeks ago or 8 quarters ago, then our job here is done. There are many more such teams that require our help. So we don't have to feel as if we're not needed here anymore, because we are needed more somewhere else, far more than here. So we need to move on. So we've done it a few times. It's generally for youngsters who come into the team, it's not a big fear. They're ready to go to the next program and start off. But my more experienced team members do get a little worried sometimes, but that's the name of our game, and we live with it, and I feel we've done pretty well as a team.
Thank you, Priya. And there's a couple of minutes left, and there's one more question from the audience. What are some smart ways would you recommend for people to connect with other women in a company or sector if they are the one of the very few women in a division only?
Always look for common forums. Don't go looking for women first. Look for common platforms where there is some level of social interaction. And you'd always find a bunch of people with like-minded thoughts. And then from that, if you're really interested in going after a group of women, obviously a subset's definitely going to be women there. You're never going to find them anywhere else. You need to find the social platform where most people talk.
Thank you, Priya.
And there's a ton of great, organizations and groups, outside of the workplace that you can join, locally, so that you can, find new mentors, share success stories, get advice. But inside the company, what I found, and again, going back to Amazon Gaming, and despite Phaedra being, the face of gaming, there aren't that many women. And in that organization, I was the only executive, and and it was of 800 people in it, there were only 6 other senior women. And so we would all get together regularly, those that were in town, or one was in Japan, whenever everybody was together, have a breakfast or have a lunch, or find ways to connect and kind of help each other. And within a lot of companies, there's a lot of, different groups you can join, diversity groups, et cetera, or form your own. But it is kind of nice, to, talk to people who are dealing with some of the same issues that you have, or getting advice from each other, and, having a kind of a support group.
Thank you, Gina.
We have 30 seconds before we have to be on break. So any last recommendations for radical collaboration, or for women who are getting into this space? You've all been amazing. What would you tell them?
Feel free to reach out to us. I mean, you've got our contact information. Jump on our LinkedIn profiles, connect. And I'm speaking for everybody on the panel, but at least for me. Feel free to reach out to me if there's anything that I can do, if I can act as an ally for you, connect you to anybody in my network. We're here for you.
I agree.
I'd say the same. I'm more than happy to connect and help out in whatever way is possible. But my last piece of advice would be just do it.
I love it.
It doesn't matter, if you're an overthinker like I am, or if you're not confident, or if you feel worried that you're not the domain expert, or you're not technical enough, doesn't matter. Just do it.
Just do it. Me too. I agree.
That absolutely fits with designing your life. Go for it. Try things. Let's give our panel a hand. Well, I won't be too loud because I know I'm on the mic, but yay, thank you. You are fantastic women. We appreciate you joining us this afternoon. I hope you'll stay for the conference. There are some questions for you guys in the chat. We have a break now.
Yeah.
Penny, I'll turn it over to you if you want to.
Yeah. Thank you, Leigh. Thank you for this amazing panel. You've been wonderful and lots of inspiring quotes. So if you want to continue in this room, you can watch the Using Business as a Force for Good, which is sponsored by Maria Kingiri and her company, and it's going to start at 2 o'clock. And if you want to go to Daring Leaders in Entrepreneurship, you can return in the main room where I have posted in the chat, and I'll post again. Thank you again for joining our conference, and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you. And thank you, V and Penny, for everything you did to help make this session successful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys did great. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.